Hi, everyone. We're going to be looking at doing the demo of our shear plate for our first Creo assignment. Now, I did go over this in class, but I took my time and kind of explained as we go. So I wanted to create a version here that is going to be a little bit quicker and just really focus on how to create the sketch and what the requirements are for handing in. So a little bit less explanation on the back side. So to start off with, we're going to set our working directory when we get into Creo, and I have mine set on my Creo, WCTC Creo, so I'm going to simply hit OK. You will have to navigate if it's your first time going in. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to start a new file, and I'm going to do part solid, and this is going to be called the shear underscore plate, and I'm going to call it 1 because I have a couple, oops, let me see, 2. There we go. I have a couple that I've drawn already. All right, so when I get here, it's going to want me to do something. Now, we do have a sketch option here. We are just focusing on the sketches, but in order to pull the parts back up, we do need to actually create a model. And a model means that we're going to have that third dimension. So we are going to start with extrude. And then it wants us to place our sketch somewhere. So we're going to define, and we're going to click on the front plane, okay? And when I do that, it's going to populate in this dialog box on the right, and then I'm just going to hit sketch. Now what happens is it automatically orients that screen if you did that check mark in the options. If not, then you're just going to have to click on the sketch view icon here on that taskbar, okay? So now I'm going to get started. So just like I did in our original, I'm going to go kind of segments by segment, take a couple segments at a time, and I'm going to add the definition. Start my line command. I'm going to start with that point A down here in the lower left-hand corner at the origin. I'm simply going to go over to the left, and I'm going to go up, and I'm going to hit my middle mouse button twice, and it's going to add some assumed dimension. These are weak dimensions that we're not going to use. To change them, and if there's dimensions that are the way I want them, so for instance, this one is along the length, I'm simply going to double click it, and I'm going to put in my new value. The value that I want is going to be 3.688. And this is referencing our sketch for the shear plate. So if we go back to our assignment sheet, this is what I'm using. So this is a 3.688. And then we're going to put in the B dimension along with the 135 and the 1.563. Okay, so this one's in place. Now you're going to notice that automatically it scaled it based on this dimension for the other dimensions as well. Now this angle needs to be 135. So I'm simply going to double click on it, and I'm going to say 135, enter. Now, if I am not selected on anything but the select button, meaning that's the only thing that's grayed in and no other commands are grayed in, okay, I can move these dimensions around. So if you left click, hold, and kind of drag them, you can move them around where you want them to go, okay? So that's how you do that. Now this one has a weak dimension going vertically, and I don't even want that dimension on there. I want it along the length of this line. So I'm going to click to add a new dimension, and I'm going to simply select the length of that line, left click, and then I'm going to move perpendicular to it, and I'm going to do a middle mouse button click, and that's going to place the dimension. And notice it automatically now removed that weak dimension because now this is like taking over. And this needs to be 1.563. 1.5, whoopsie. Yeah, 1.563. Okay, enter. All right. That takes care of my A to B, B to C. Now I'm going to add the next couple line segments. So I'm going to do a line command. I'm going to click to the endpoint of that last line, and I'm going to go a little bit off. Now, make sure that you are not adding any constraints. A constraint is going to be when I have these little lines or these little circles with these lines in them. I want to be an independent segment, and I don't want them in line with anything either, okay? So I'm going to click when there's none of those available. Then I'm going to go up here, and I'm going to add a third one to the mix. And then I'm going to double click, okay? So now I'm going to do that very same thing. I'm going to, if there's any common dimensions that they assume that I can use, I'll just double click and change those. So for right now, this angle right here, the 143, this needs to be 150. Okay. And then this angle between the 112 needs to be 120. Enter. And then this one is 105. Enter. Okay. And now I need to just add the lengths of each one of those segments. So I'm going to go to the dimension because I don't want to use the ones that are here. I want to add my own. And I'm going to click dimension, click the line, and I'm going to move perpendicular. And I'm going to maybe pull this out a little bit. I don't know. We'll see. Middle mouse button. And this needs to be 1.375. Enter. Okay. Now we've got it. We're going to have to move this around a little bit, but I'm going to wait till I'm kind of completely done. And I'm going to do that very same thing. The dimension is still grayed, so it's still active. I'm going to click on that line, move perpendicular to it, middle mouse button, and this is 2.219. Enter. And now I have to kind of pan down. I'm going to depress and hold my shift mouse button or my shift key and my middle mouse button. And I'm going to kind of bring this down here. And now I'm going to add the dimension still grayed in so I can go right to selecting that segment, moving perpendicular away from it, middle mouse button, and then 3.438. Enter. Okay. And now you'll notice that none of those blue weak dimensions are there. I'm ready to continue on. So I'm going to go back to my line command and I'm going to sketch in the next segment. I don't want this to have any of these things going on, right? So I want independent line. I'm going to go something like this, something like this. But then this one, I do want to be perpendicular, not to that one, not to that one. And it's not, oh, here it is. I want it to be to that one. So notice that the green, that means that this line is perpendicular to the green. So when I was up here, it was selecting this line over here. No, 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 no. I want it to be perpendicular to that one. That's where the perpendicular relationship is. So I'm going to grab, I'm going to go out this way, left, and then I'm going to middle mouse button, middle mouse button. And now I'm going to see if there's any of these that I can use. So this one I can. This is 105. Okay. This one I can. This one's 150. Ooh, look how close I had that. 150. Okay. This one is 90 degrees. Assumed that was a constraint that we had on there. Now I'm going to add the lengths of these. So I have to actually add a dimension. I'm going to click, move perpendicular, middle mouse button. This is 2.391. Okay. Ooh, see how this kind of like gets a little goofy if you do too many lines at once. That's why I do not suggest going around the entire perimeter, because all of a sudden things are going to start overlapping and folding onto themselves. So a couple segments at a time, because I like went 3 or 4 here and it maybe was not the best idea. So I have my 150. I want to do the dimension here, this length perpendicular to, and that length is 1.906. Enter. There we go. And then this one perpendicular to, and that's going to be 3.375. Enter. There we go. And then I've got 2 more segments to add. Okay, so if I go back over here, I'm all the way to point J. I need to add this and then close it up. So I'm going to go back to Creo and I'm going to go back to the line command. Right now I'm in dimension. I could middle mouse button or hit escape, but I can go right over to the line command, gets rid of all of the dimensions. That's not bad. It just means that they're clearing out the space so that you can add what you need to. Now, again, I don't want anything. I want an independent line. I don't want any of those, fancy things. And then I'm going to go right back over here. And then I'm going to hit my middle mouse button 2 times. And now it has everything closed. I know everything's closed because this turned pink on the inside. Okay, it tells me it's a closed loop. So now this dimension I am going to use, this dimension right here, double click. This is going to be 60, enter. And then it's putting in this angle right here. I don't want that in there. I don't want that in there, but it's going to go away when I put a dimension for the length of this line, which is J to K of 2.077, enter. Okay. So now notice that I have no blue anything. So if I go back to my illustration, I've got all of my dimensions, my angles for the perimeter of this. Now, it is asking me 2 dimensions over here as reference, and they need to be reference dimensions. You can't put them in as regular dimensions. It's going to be an over dimension otherwise. So we need to add a reference dimension for the length of KA and a reference dimension for the angle between those 2. After we get the other geometry in place, the last reference dimension we need to add is going to be here. So there is an actual reference dimension command up here in Creo. So over to the right of the larger dimension where there is this reference dimension, I'm going to click on that and I'm going to put those two in. I'm going to click on that line K to A and I'm going to go perpendicular. Here is that value. And then the last one is going to be from here to here. And I'm going to click in the inside. That's going to be the angle. And that's there. Okay. Now I probably want to move those around. So I'm going to left click, or I'm going to middle mouse button click. And then I'm going to grab these and I'm going to, come on, right? I'm only selecting. Let me see here. All right. I'm going to go closer here. I'm going to move this one here. Sometimes you have to hit an escape key in between to kind of clear its memory, if you would. Okay. So now I've got, I have a little bit of overlap in some places, but I think I can see all the dimensions and where they're starting and going. That's the important thing. Okay. So not a bad time to do a save here. So we already have it identified in our working directory. We have the title. So we're just going to hit File, Save. It's going to confirm my working directory and it's going to call it a sketch file. Don't worry about that. It's okay. It's not going to call it a part number, a part file until we do our extrude at the very end, which we will before we're completely done. Now we're going to add the two holes right here. So I'm going to grab my circle command. I'm going to go inline here. And actually I'm not going to go inline here. I'm actually going to intentionally go offset because I'm going to add the constraint after. Okay. And the reason I need to do that is because it's going to grab on and make this coincident. And I don't want it coincident. I actually want a vertical constraint so that they're in line. You'll notice that in the description of the problem. And when we look here, there is a vertical constraint here and a vertical constraint here. We need to do that for the geometry. So I'm going to go offset intentionally, click, and I'm going to make my circle. And then I'm going to left mouse button and it's going to add the dimensions here. Okay. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add that vertical constraint for the center of this hole to be to the, the start point right down here. So I'm going to go vertical from this center to that point. There we go. Vertical constraint. All right. And it moved it automatically. So it's in line. Then the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take this diameter. Oopsie. Zoom, zoom, zoom. Oh, I need to go off of, I need to hit escape to get off of my vertical constraint. I'm going to take this. I'm going to move it over here. And I'm going to double click on it and I'm going to put in 0.625, enter. Okay. And then here is the height. I'm just left clicking this and pulling it out so it's away from the other stuff. I'm going to double click on it and it's going to be 0.938, 0.938, enter. There we go. Okay. So that is in place. Now I'm going to create the other hole over here, horizontal in line and the same diameter. So I'm going to go up to the circle command. I'm going to kind of activate that center point. I'm going to go horizontal, horizontal, and notice that the horizontal constraint is right next to where I am at. And I want to click when that's in place because then it'll automatically put it there for me. So then I'm going to click, left click, and then notice that as I go out to make my radius, it's going to stop. It's going to say, hey, do you want this equal? And I do. Okay, I do. So I'm gonna left click when that's the equal. That way I don't have to redimension this and it's going to automatically be tied to that first hole. And then I'm going to left click and now my dimensions are here. So notice that it doesn't add a diameter because it's equal. So you'll notice the equal sign here, the equal sign there. Additionally, it's vertically in line. So if this dimension moves, the second hole is going to move with it. And then all I need to do is I need to identify what the center distance is. So I'm going to go up a little bit here. I'm going to double click on that. And that needs to be 2.875. There we go. Okay. And then left click out. So let's test that. If I put this, let's say to 1 inch, should be able to see that move. Let's watch. And I hit enter. They both go up together. Okay. I'm going to put it back down to the value 0.938. And we should see them both go together with one dimension. Isn't that cool? So again, dimension-driven geometry is very powerful and it becomes efficient once we start getting used to it here. And remember, it's going to take a little bit of time. You guys just got off of getting really good at AutoCAD by the time you got done, right? And there's going to be some things, you know, that you're going to be like, you're going to do AutoCAD keys. That's okay. All right. It's just a matter of getting used to this one. New interface. Okay. Not a bad time to do a file save. It's not going to ask us anymore because we confirmed our working directory and such. Okay. All right. So let me do this, kind of straighten things out. We look good. And now I'm going to be adding the geometry for this slot. Now to do so, I'm going to have to add some center lines. Okay. I'm going to add a center line going through our second hole here, and it is going to be parallel to line BC. Okay. And it says that up in our description, and we can see the parallel and the parallel here. So let's go back to Creo, and we have a center line feature in the sketching area here. So center line is right here in the middle of our ribbon, center line. We're going to click on and snap to the center of this hole, click. And then now when I go like this, it's gonna find where it's parallel to that line BC. And that's where I want to click. Okay. Notice that the parallel constraint becomes active, and there it is. Okay. Middle mouse button. Parallel, parallel. No blue dimensions, you know, here, because it was just a relationship going through a point. And I have a center line to infinity that is parallel to this line segment BC. Okay, so if we go back and we look, all right, now I'm going to draw along here a circle that is going to represent the radius for this slot. That radius on that slot is 0.4. So I'm going to draw a diameter of a circle along this line, okay, along this line. And I'm going to click. It's going to become coincident, and I want that. So I want to be on that line, and I want the coincident, which is that constraint that we see there, the line with the little circle. Click it. I'm going to go like this. I do not want it to be equal. I do not. So go further until we're past that. Otherwise, it will go along with those other ones. And then we'd have to, you know, delete the constraint and stuff. And then I'm going to hit my middle mouse button. And now I'm going to double click on that diameter, and it's going to be 0.8 diameter. So we get to the right size. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to select that and left click, select and left click. And select with the left click and right click. And then what's going to happen is I want to change this to a radius dimension. Do not leave this dimension as a diameter. We have to click it, and now it's going to be a radius. Right now it's still a full circle, so it'll always default to that diameter, but we're going to be doing some trimming, and it's going to end up as a radius. So I'm going to put this out of the way here. Okay, back to the geometry. Now what we're going to do through the center of, we need to offset this at 3.156. So we're going to put that dimension in first. So the distance between here and here is 3.156. So we're going to add a dimension from this center to this center. And now we have to go perpendicular to this line. So kind of go out perpendicular and middle mouse button so that you get it along that line. That's 3.156, 3.156, enter. Okay. It's getting good. Now we have to put through the center of this a line that is going to be at 30 degrees between this center line and that one. Okay. So we're going to put in another center line through that center. So we're going to click this as the center. Now, we don't want to be in line with anything, make it its own independent, and then we're going to add the angle afterwards. So we're going to click right about there. So notice I am not parallel to anything. I'm not coincident. I'm independent. Click, and then middle mouse button. And it added a weak dimension down here, but we want our dimension to be strong between these two up here. So we're going to add a dimension from this center line to this center line, and we're going to middle mouse button in the middle, and that needs to be 30. Okay, and now notice that other weak dimension went away. All right, now we can add our other diameter, the bottom diameter of our slot right here. And we want that to be a circle on this line coincident. Okay, I'm going to click its center. I'm going to go out. I don't want it to be equal to that one, not the small one, but I do want it to be equal to the top one here. So once it's equal to that top one and that one is green, I'm going to click. And then I'm going to middle mouse button, and there it is. Now, I'm going to leave this one alone for just a second, because now what I'm going to do is I am going to create the lines to the to create the sides of my slot. Now, to do that, if I just do the line command, and I did this intentionally, I can't I need these to be tangent, right? Now, if this was a vertical or a horizontal slot, I could select the quadrants, but that's not the case here. I need a tangent and a tangent. So I am going to actually go underneath my line command to the line tangent. That's what's underneath there. That's stacked underneath. So I'm going to click on that and click on that line. And I'm going to get close to this. Now, it's not going to look like it's selecting it all, but you're going to get close. I'm going to click, and now it does. And depending on where I go, it's going to make a tangent line, but I'm going to go down here, and it's going to automatically make those two tangent. Okay? Do the same thing on the other side. I'm still in the command. I can click, and then now click. And then it automatically makes them what they say, coincident and tangent. Okay, middle mouse button, it's in place. Now what I can do is I can trim away or delete the segments that I don't want. The delete segment is right up here. Click. I'm going to left click, drag over the top of what I don't want. So these two right here on this side. I don't want to cross over that center line, otherwise it's going to delete that segment. Do the same thing here again. I'm still in that delete segment. Get rid of that part. I don't want to go across the center line, otherwise it's going to delete it. Then I'm going to go in the middle here and go across these two. Okay. Now, if at any time something happens you don't like, okay, you just get out of that command and you can do the undo. Okay. So if I hit the undo right here, those come back in. Okay. Delete that segment one more time. There we go. And it'll go one at a time. You can do undo, 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 just like you did in AutoCAD. Okay, now this is my dimension here, but that's not what I want. I want to add my dimension to be along the length of this line right here. Okay, how long that slot is, the straight part, perpendicular. And now that's going to be 0.938. Enter. And it's fully defined, no blue dimensions. Okay, so now if we look back, we should have all of our features in place. And the only last reference dimension we need to add is this one right here. So we're going to add that reference dimension back to Creo. Oopsie, wrong one. There we go. Creo. Sorry, I got rid of something. I opened something I shouldn't have. Okay. And now I'm going to get a reference dimension, not a regular dimension, reference dimension. And I'm going to go from the center down to the bottom of the part. And I'm going to go out here, middle mouse button, and there's my reference dimension as a value. Okay. Now, the last step that you want to do is I'm going to shift middle mouse button, kind of put this down. Couple things so that they're easy to see. I'm going to zoom out of here just a little bit. Okay. And I want to be able to see all of my dimensions. The other thing that I can do here is I can get rid of some of these planes that are there too, so that they're not extra lines as we see them. So if we go to the middle of that taskbar there, it says datum display filters. I'm going to click on this and I'm going to unselect all. Okay. And notice that that stuff went away. All right. That stuff went away. So it kind of declutters a little bit. If you don't do it, it's no big deal, but it just kind of makes it a little bit nicer looking. And then what you want to do is you want to go around, make sure that you don't have anything selected. So right now I have that reference dimension selected. I just want to be on the select, and I'm going to go through and I'm going to make sure that I can see all of my dimensions. So like my 135 here, I'm going to move that a little closer that way. This seems okay, but maybe I can improve it by, and you can move your dimensions down and such. So maybe something like that. That looks pretty good. This one is overlapping. Again, I need to see them. All right. Take the time required for you to make sure. And then this radius went up that way. So let's get it so that we can see it as a radius. Here's that dimension, that dimension. We'll scooch this in a little bit. This looks okay. And I think as I look here, I can see everything. Again, this is not going to be released for production. I just need to see all the dimensions. So check your overlaps here. Now I'm ready to do my screen snap. Okay. So I would do my Windows key, Windows Shift S, and then, or the snipping tool, right? That snipping tool. And then I'm going to go across, hold, and then release. And now it's on my clipboard that I can add to a document to put in, or if you want to save it in that snipping tool, if you use the snipping tool itself, it should come up. Oh, here it is. That snipping tool comes up, new. I'm going to create a window around, oops, I didn't get it all in, but that's okay. A window here. And now I can save as shear plate, and then that can be the file that I upload. Okay, so so you guys have done this before, but all I need is screenshots here, just screenshots, not the file itself. Okay, because of that whole business with the working directory, it just makes it complicated for me to try to you know, see the actual files. So make sure that I can see all the dimensions. If I can't, then unfortunately you're gonna have points taken off. Now, the other thing that you want to double check is that there are no weak dimensions. Okay, so if there's any weak dimensions, they're going to points are going to come off. Okay, so you have to resolve those before you hand in, and by doing it the way that we did here, your chances are going to be really great. So now, before we go out of here, we do have to save this as a part file, which means we're going to do our extrude. So now that we have our sketch in place, we're just going to check it real quick with feature requirements. We've got 2 green check marks. We are ready to extrude. We can hit OK. It's like we're saying, okay, our sketch is ready to extrude. So we're going to hit OK here. And now it's going to remember, oh yeah, you wanted to extrude this part. Now to see the depth that it's going to extrude, I'm going to take my middle mouse button and I'm just going to, anywhere on the screen, depress that roller and rotate it kind of towards myself. Okay. And I can see that. Now I don't really want it that thick. I'm going to change my depth. Now I can either change it here by double clicking on it, or up here where you see at the top here, this is the extrude menu. I'm just going to put in 0.25. I just want it to be a depth. Okay. And then I can kind of see it here. And then I'm going to hit OK. And now it's an official part. Okay. This is what I want to do my final save as on. So file, save. And it's in my working directory. And now it finally became a part because I added depth. Okay. So when it's just a sketch, it is not going to save it as a part file. It is still a sketch until it gets some thickness there, that extrusion, then it becomes a part file. And I can simply say, okay. All right. And now I have it saved. So this way, if I leave it out there as an SEC file, as just a sketch file, I can't pull that up, believe it or not. It's just kind of something weird with Creo, I guess. We'll find little weird things along the way, but that's okay. We're working with it. And now that it's a part file, I can pull that part file back up and then I can change things about it. So if you did want to pull that part file, you want it to go back to your sketcher, notice that we have an extrude here over in what we call our design tree. Okay, we'll talk more about this as we go along, but we're just kind of focusing on sketching right now. If I click that triangle and then I select down here, this is the sketch. They call it section 1. It's the sketch. Okay, it's the sketch. And then if I go up here in the middle, this is called edit definition. And that means I want to edit that sketch some way. So I'm going to go to edit definition. And now I'm back to my sketch. So if you hand in and you end up getting points off and you have to edit the sketch to rehand in, you have to have it saved as a part file. If you have it as an SEC file, you are going to have to redo it. Okay, because you can't work with that file. You can't pull it up. It's not going to allow you to pull it up. So we have to do it as an extrude. So make sure you do this final step. And then I'm just going to hit OK. It goes back to the actual part. Okay, and then again, file, save to save that. Okay, so make sure you're saving it as a part and it has this extrude function in here before you exit out. If you save it just as that SEC, you're not going to be able to edit it. Okay. All right. So now we're going to do a file and we're going to manage our files, delete the old versions. Yes. We're going to go file. Oops. Got it. Oopsie. Got it. And then I'm going to go to file and I'm going to close it. And then I'm going to file, manage session, erase not displayed, all that stuff in there. Okay. And then we are able to either start a new file at this point or to exit out of Creo. Okay, there you go. Full demonstration of the shear plate.